I am one of those people who will start a book series, and even if it's a really, really good book, and one of the best books you've read, like ever, will then not immediately go on to the next one. That's something I'm trying to kick in the last 12 months or so by reading entire series. However, it has taken me almost 2 years to read this, Golden Sun. Now, I read Red Rising in the spring of 2023, so yeah, about 2 years. And it was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. It was dark, gritty. The world building was brilliant. I really enjoyed how everything came together, the classifications of the colours and the segregation aspect of it intrigued me. And the whole uprising, it all fell very well together, and I loved the book. And a friend of mine bought me the rest of the series almost immediately. And I didn't read any of them. They've sat on my shelf. As you can see, they're up here now. I'm reading the third one now, so I've kicked that habit. But yes, Golden Sun is the second of the Red Rising books, and I have to be honest, it's not as good as the first. At least not in the first half. So it picks up a couple of years after the end of the first book. And Darrow is now in charge of ships. He has a crew behind him. He's properly deep in the whole undercover operation thing. The thing that I had trouble with was getting into this one, because in the first book you learn about the colours and you learn about their roles and you learn about all of the aspects of mythology that have influenced the way that these people live. But I feel like Pierce Brown said, well, you're in the world now, off you go, and then just ignored any explanations or introducing terms gently or whatever. It was like reading a high fantasy where the first book was a standard thriller. It's such a disconnect from me to suddenly have all of these extra terms thrown at you, all of these weird ways of spelling things. Like, they don't say materials, they say materials. It just, all these little things, tiny little things, but it's a lot. And the world building ends. Compared to the first book where you're being introduced to everything, with this book it just says, right, well, this is how it is, there you go. And I really struggled to get into it. It took me a few days to read the first half of the book. However, when I got to the finale, we ended up with, and if you haven't read this, it might be a minor spoiler, but bearing in mind these books are a decade old now. So I'm going to say it anyway. That's your warning to naff off. The end of the second book, we basically have a red wedding scenario. And that is the ending of the book. So then I'm like, well, now I have to read the next one. I can't leave it like that. It took me 2 years to get to this one. I can't leave it another 2 years before reading Morningstar. So I didn't. I've started it. But yeah, for that reason, this book for me is a 4-star. Whereas the first one was a clear 5-star, just because I feel like the author thinks that the work is done in the first book to get you into this world and this environment and how everything works. And then he's just not bothered at all with the second one. He's just like, well, you should understand this by now. And for someone as dim as me, who can't handle high fantasy most of the time, it felt like a high sci-fi fantasy, and I struggled with it. I'm reading the third one now. I'm just about halfway through, but again, I'm having the same issue with that one. It's slow to start. It's sort of dragging along a little bit, but it is more interesting than Golden Sun was in the first half, so fingers crossed. But yeah, if you haven't read them, do read them because they are very good books. But be aware that the world that you're going into is complex. So if, like me, you're no good with high fantasy, you might struggle a little bit with this. But the story is good enough to keep you going. You just kind of have to figure it out as you go. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's just taking me longer to read because I still don't have my Kindle back from Amazon. And the print in these books is microscopic and they're all at least 500 pages. I think the last two are like 800 pages. So, RIP my eyesight. But yeah, I'll let you know how I get on with Morningstar.